Hey everybody, welcome to the show. We have a special guest and kind of an awesome, privilege. We get to be one of the few shows that gets to kick off a book author who's releasing his debut novel, Taylor Moore, Downrange. This one I got this early edition, and man, I cover to cover. I absolutely loved the book. It was one of those that for me. We're not going to name drop other authors because this isn't their show. This is Taylor Moore's show. So it's like a lot of others. This one is really cool. It's a combination of CIA those operative thrillers and Western. It's really well done. I mean, I was really surprised, especially when that whole thought is like, okay, kind of a combination of Western, but it absolutely worked. And you guys are going to love it. I mean, I look forward to questions. Bring them on. Taylor Moore is now. Welcome to the Three Beards podcast. My name is Craig, along with Austin and Chris.
Passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century.
Let me out.
I'm afraid that is right. Justice and honor in Massachusetts colony?
All right, everybody. So what's going on? We had a hectic day at work, so we're all scrambling trying to get caught up. So Chris will be joining us when he gets home and settled. So, but at this time, we would like to bring on the guest for this show, Taylor Moore. How are you, sir?
Doing fantastic, man, guys. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for the kind words about the book. No, it's great to be here. And by the way, I love your intro into the show. This is my kind of show. I love that kind of thing.
Well, hey, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
There's a book. See, not lying. See,
yeah.
I even souped it up. Normally my bookmarks are dollar bills. This one, I used our business card. Yeah, that's one of the things that I always joke is if you want to get rich, just come raid my bookcase. I don't know when that started, but I've always used dollar bills. But yeah. I mean, just right off the bat, I mean, I want to say, just for me, because I said I didn't want to, Brad Thor, that's one of the ones I really liked. I got Rollins. Yeah. He's another one. I said I've read all their books. I really like these ones. And so when Danielle reached out to me and said, "Would you be interested in I have an up and coming author. We've got this great book, this book that's coming out. It's called Downrange. Would you like to?" And it's like, "Yeah, what's it about?" She goes, "Well, it's kind of a thriller meets Western. The way she described it." I'm like, that sounds really interesting. And I checked it out, and I mean, really, you just did an interview with, I think it's the Crew.
Mm-hmm. Crew reviews, yeah.
And I really, one of the things, like they said that they really nailed, a few of those questions. And that was one of the ones like I really wanted to get to is just what got you just right to think, what came up with the idea? I know you were born and raised Texas. Yeah. And so that was, you're drawing from your experience. You're also former CIA, DOD. But what got that idea of just doing the CIA thriller type thing, but yet I want to come back, all a lonesome dove, type thing, just bring in the Western, the coming home. And that's that side to the story, because it was fantastically done.
Yeah.
What was I? Alex
again,
Jones? Fantastic.
Again, thank you. The black helicopters are on their way.
Yeah.
No, say, hey, thank you again for the kind words about the book. It means a lot because it's your baby. You work so hard on it. You want people to like it. Now that I'm starting to get feedback that the book is out, and it's been, I don't know how many times, posts I've been getting on social media from people that have said, I've already finished the book, and it came out yesterday, and that's the greatest compliment you can ever have as an author, that it was that much of a page turner that people are flying through it. So that was really cool. But back to your question, you're asking like, well, how did this thing happen? It happened for a variety of reasons. People ask me like, well, how do you write a story? And I said, I just take the things that I like and sort of smash them together. And so I've always loved, of course, grew up on a farm and ranch in Texas, so that was a passion of mine. But always loved everything international. I loved international relations and everything. I loved traveling overseas. So I said, well, let's just put these things together. And growing up, my two favorite authors, I love Tom Clancy and I love Larry McMurtry. So again, you talk about Lonesome Dove, you talk about Clear and Present Danger. Those were I was sort of raised on. And those were the kind of stories that I wanted to tell. And lo and behold, I ended up having those backgrounds in real life of, having worked and, grown up on a farm and ranch, working with, with horses and cattle and all that kind of stuff, and having the oil and gas, background, even growing up as a kid. And then moving on to the international side of things, where I was working in the CIA, doing contract military intelligence work, and working the Counternarcotics issue from that end. And then later on working in oil and gas as a landman. So I was out on these big Texas ranches up on the Texas high plains, meeting all these people and having all these crazy experiences, and then hearing all these stories about, what the cartels were up to, and, people laundering money and all these weird things, and how the drug, meth and all these things were ruining lives. And so with a guy like me with an imagination and sort of creativity and always, wanting to be a writer anyhow, I'm just soaking it all in. And so there's sort of a lifetime experiences that sort of culminate into this story in Downrange. And that's how it ended up that way.
Yeah, it's obvious that people are really like it, because like you said, I was just looking up Amazon, of course, at least right now, as of their thing, you're in the top 17,000 books on Amazon.
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially for a debut, like somebody, with a name recognition. You're number 214 in terrorism thrillers.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You're number 473 in Westerns. So,
yeah. If you think of all the great Westerns out there, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah. So you've got, and it's one, honestly, I made it to, I think it was the first night when it received, I flew through the first 7 chapters of the book. And, I hate giving spoilers. I don't want to get too much, but really it's one, and this is kind of where I was going to give the nod to that one where the crew reviews, they brought this up. This one would make a fantastic movie. Yeah. The way you did it, catch me, tell me if I'm mischaracterizing this, but it really, to me, was like Sicario. Yeah. I tell people all the time, I said, it's Hell or High Water meets Sicario. If you like those two movies, you're going to love this, because those were inspirations for me. And, Taylor Sheridan's another fellow Texan, and I love those movies. I thought they were great. Yeah, because the opening, guys, the opening two chapters, it's like its own little mini movie in its own. And I liked the way, not only the setup you did for the protagonist, Garrett Kohl, the way you had, and the way this is because you have this hardened, special ops guy, but then I really like the way you crafted in how morality has got to creep into some of these decisions, because you get to that point where you know what you're supposed to do, you've been told what you're supposed to do, but staring it down at that moment, you encapsulated what everybody said. We can go to like a completely different thing. Like when somebody says, I will never do that. Well, when they're faced with it, a lot of people will like make a complete opposite choice of what they claim I will never do. Right. And you really encapsulate that in the way the protagonist did that. The way Garrett Kohl had to make that split-second decision, and that was a completely altering decision. Yeah. And in a way, you could tell that you've lived this life because you crafted his experience back when he comes back and talks to superiors.
Yeah.
Like how that would go. And I really, really enjoyed that aspect of the book. And it's one of those, like reading Rainbow Says, if you want to know more, you got to get the book.
Get the book. Yeah. I highly encourage it too.
Yes. Yeah. So that was me. So like I said, you very well done. I mean, if you can't tell, I liked your character.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And yeah, you're right. I've never been in that particular situation, but boy, I've had my butt chewed out a number of times. So I there's a lot of things, people always ask me about, well, how do you do this without writing about classified material or classified? And I always say, that's not really what's interesting. What's actually interesting is the dynamic of working at the CIA or working in, counter-narcotics or whatever it is. That the sort of atmospherics are what are interesting. And exactly like you hit the nail on the head. There are these issues that you have to sort of take into account. There's the rules of engagement. There's things that you are supposed to follow. But then there's your own moral compass. And those are two completely different things sometimes. And it's not that they ever ask you to do something bad necessarily, but there's times when you want to help people and you're a human being and it may be against the rules to help someone. And it may make no sense. I mean, it may make sense in the grand scheme of diplomacy or something like that, or, but in reality, everybody's got that choice to make. And of course, we've all been there. And I wanted to write that into the novel. So I think when people come in and they read Downrange, again, you're not going to, I have to get everything cleared with the CIA and that's fine. I never want to put anything that would jeopardize tradecraft or anything that we do. But I wanted those atmospherics and I wanted people to know what it's like to be sitting in front of a superior or being in these and have to make these choices, because I think that the human element of being in intelligence or the military or whatever it is, that's what's interesting. And that's what I tried to put into the book.
Yeah. And that you kind of hit on that where you were just describing. I was as you're saying that, it made me think it's like the stories from Vietnam when people would come in. You're going into the rice paddies and you see, female with children there. Well, that group right there may be completely harmless, but the very next one is the one that has the AK inside the thing and pulls it up and shoots you. So a lot of people is like, well, how can you do it? It's like, because unfortunately, you have to make that split-second decision right there. Do I or don't I? And it can be completely altered. You could do the right choice and say, see, I made the right choice, or you're a statistic.
Yeah,
because you
absolutely.
And that was, it's here. Yeah, you're the Reading Rainbow. I like bringing that up because that's one of my
That's a good one. I like it. I'm going to use that myself.
I know, butterflies. Everybody starts singing the song. But you also touched on one of the other ones I wanted to, because the way I wrote the question is, what is it like having to write a novel knowing that you're going to have this thing completely read cover to cover? And do you have an idea of what's going to be redacted? I mean, do you kind of have in your head, like, this may not make it? Or is it sometimes you bring back and you're like, I can't believe that they scratched out before that one? I mean, that seems really weird.
It's a pretty, I know some people, like Jack Carr and all these guys, they go through the process probably with DOD, and I do it with CIA, and I don't mind doing it because, again, I never want to I'm an American patriot. I want to do the right things, and I never want to give anything away that would jeopardize our security. But yeah, the first go around was a learning experience. I did have some things redacted, and I was a little bit like, really, like that, And so I know why they did it. I know why they did it because I can't come out and maybe confirm these things or whatever. But I thought, but they were really good about say, well, don't use this. And so I did. And that's fine. And some things were just taken out. But it was a learning experience when I first tried because, I thought, well, this would never be a problem. But you're like, okay, well, I see what you're getting at. Maybe someone else can say it, but I can't say it. So that's fine. And so I did that. I've already written book 2, sent that through the process, and it came back totally clean. So it's just a learning process. You just kind of learn what you can say, what you can't say about specifics or places or whatever. So I learned. I've got a little bit of a technique that I use, and I try to use real places as much as I can to be accurate. But if there's things that sort of border on, like, this might not be the right thing, or my general rule of thumb is if I write something bad about something, I make it up. But if I write something good about something, I use the real name.
You do.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I do.
That's okay. That makes sense. And
Yeah.
I mean, I won't lie. When I was watching this interview and you said, book 2 is already in the process of being, reviewed, I'm like, oh, that's exciting. I can't
Yeah.
wait for that sequel. I doubt you can say the title yet.
We don't have a title yet. I'll tell you that. I will say my harshest critic has read the book, and I think he said he thought it was better than Downrange. So just so you know.
Oh, wow. That's
yeah. So
well,
it hasn't have been. I wrote it in a vacuum. It hasn't seen a lot of hadn't a lot of readers yet. But the one that's is highly critical of me and is tough on me, he loves it. So I tell people if you like Downrange, you're gonna love the next one.
And you can't tell by my books because I do not break spines. I go these things. I read them. I read them like this.
Okay.
So it's one, and I don't know if it's the very last line in the book, and it was one that I knew reading it. I knew you had a sequel.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it just if you've been watched movies, anything, it was that one. It was this cowboy was home and he intended to stay.
Yeah.
As soon as you go that, that's when, whether you like Sicario or whether it's something like that, something is about to happen. And I'm hoping that in the sequel, that something is like, the instantaneous thing. And you're like, yeah, see, he wanted to stay home. Yeah, see what happens.
Well, like you said, people are going to have to read it and find out. But
yeah,
but no, I'm a big believer. There's some books that you read and they're not satisfying. They don't have satisfying endings. I wanted a satisfying ending. So I hope you felt that was satisfying.
Yeah,
but I wanted to dangle that little bit out there to where people are like, okay, so I've got to see what happens next, because what's gonna, I sort of wrap up what needs to be wrapped up, and I leave a lot hanging for the next book. So yeah, it's meant to be a series. It's meant to be a series. So yeah, you'll always have those little bit of dangling issues with every character, and as you know, a lot of thrillers are written, particularly like the military style thrillers, are written in first person, so you only get one person's perspective. And I do multiple points of view and what I call, or it's called close third. So it's almost like you're reading first person in third person, but I do that for every character. And my goal through this thing was to have everybody's storyline is as interesting as the protagonist, because I never wanted, we've all read those books where you're like, this guy's kind of boring or whatever, I'm just going to skim past this to get back to the character I like. And I never wanted that to be the case. I always wanted it to be everybody likes every character. And so far I've had like, everybody will bring up somebody different, like the dad or the girlfriend or whatever, whatever it is. And so that's been kind of fun.
Yeah. It's, once again, I think there's a camera somewhere, a mirror. Somebody's seen my notes. That's what I said. He's taking my stuff. That was one of my things too. You brought it up because that's one of the things I really liked is, this one was done because you read a lot of stories and they come from the perspective of the narrator, that you have this disembodied person that's telling the story through this one. But this one is, whether you want to use it like first person shooter games, whatever, your majority of this, but it's like you're in the mind of Garrett Kohl. You're hearing it from his take, his thing. Yeah. You're not getting it. Like I said, I don't want to spoil too much. Like when he encounters a high school acquaintance on the bridge, that's one of those things. You're getting it from. You're not getting this. Well, and he walked upon this. You're not getting this type of thing. You're getting the, crap. You're getting that kind of take from. It's like, that's not who I wanted to see, and that was the part that was really, really cool reading this, because it's one of those. I don't know if everybody does it. It's just for me. When I see it, I picture everything in my mind. I see it like I'm watching a movie as I'm reading these things. And the way you wrote it, I could see the bridge. I mean, I could picture, I could picture, the shrub, everything in the gravel road. I could picture all this stuff in my mind. Yeah. And it was and I think that's the biggest thing for me, when I tell somebody, like, I recommend the book, it's because it has to have that one thing. If it resonates with that one, where I can image it, and I want to read more because I want to know what happens next, not because I'm like, well, I got to finish this chapter. It's like, no, it's like, I got to put this down because it's 12:30 at night and I have to be up at 5 a.m. It's like, put the book down.
That's been the biggest compliment that I've had from readers so far. Is I've had people say, I spent way too many late nights on this book trying to get resolution. I said, I hate to tell you, but you're not going to get it till you get to that very last page.
No.
And so that's the way I designed it. And you mentioned that was a big thing, is that setting, and what's interesting is like where it's set is Canadian Texas. That's a real place. The wagon bridge where that incident, that's a real place.
I didn't know
everything's real. Stumbling Goat Saloon is a real place that you can go eat, and the cattle exchange and all this kind of stuff it's all real. And so for me, I was able to write it because I was able to visit it and go see it. And I spent a lot of time there before I even wrote the book. And so it's a really cool place to visit. And it's that interesting as hopefully as interesting it is in the book. That's as interesting it is as a real location.
Yeah, hopefully you're going to get some, thank you from these places, for the people that, especially as you get there, they're going to actually show up to the saloon. It's like, oh my God, this is the place, it's like, oh, you read the book too? Yeah. I might get something back like, hey, thank you for, the boost to the business, for,
at least a free meal or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You go in there and have your picture up on the wall, it's like, this is the place I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Do you feel that because of your history, the experiences that you've had, that it made it easier to do the thrill, this operative thriller part in addition? Because I know where you grew up on the farm and the ranch, I think was it Navasota? Is that where?
Navasota. Yeah.
Navasota. So obviously the rancher, the cowboy, that's going to be a lot easier because you grew up that way. That's just the lifestyle you're in, Texas Panhandle,
Yeah.
So was it easier to write the Western aspect of the book, or was it easier to write that operative CIA, DEA agent side?
Man, that's a good question. Nobody's asked me that. And the answer is, I think it was about the same, both those were big parts of my life. And so, yeah, they were sort of equal. But, here's the funny thing is, I think if we want to talk about personally what I pull from it, Garrett's character, I think it was sort of the operator, like the sort of working that the intelligence, all that kind of stuff, part of that. I think a lot, everything goes into it. But somebody hit on this the other day because they brought up the horses. They were big horse people, and they said there's a lot of horses in the book, and I said that's a real big thing. That's a big horse culture, and so for Asadi's character, I had to go transform myself back to childhood, and I remember learning to ride and riding with these cowboys, and I never wanted to mess up, and I was always worried I was going to be embarrassed or embarrass myself, and I remember that from childhood. And so I put those characteristics into Asadi, and when he's learning how to ride and trying to do things right and trying to impress the old dad, Butch. And so I kind of, for every character, I draw upon something for myself.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that. I took that as a high compliment that I actually I always love it when I come up with a question that nobody. Yeah, and that's what I always strive for. Is like, I don't want it to be the same, because you always get like the presser kit. You get this, like the standard ones, and I know it's like, I'm not sure how many you've done. I know I've seen 2 videos on YouTube, but it's one of those. I know after a while, it's like, I could look up the, I got it right here, for the thing, but I could look and ask, this is your first book, I could read it word for word, and you're like, okay, this is yes, this is my first book. It's just after. So it's okay.
Awesome, it's just part of it.
I'm happy that I came up with one that you haven't been asked yet.
Because did. That was a good one.
Yeah, but obviously for anybody that's never been to Texas, when we moved to Florida, we were driving through it, and I can't tell you, it just seemed like it went on forever. Came out of New Mexico, it just went up through Amarillo, and it seemed like the destination we were shooting for. It was like, if we could get to Dallas, we feel like we're on the other side, and we're gonna make. And it just seemed like that stretched on that. It was like a mirage that just kept moving further and further away as you drove.
It is.
And I just,
when I moved to Amarillo, you laugh because we came back because my wife was from here, and I thought, well, I wasn't really wild about the idea because it's so remote. And I said, well, at least we're close to Dallas. And then we got here, and I was like, we're not close to Dallas. We're not close to anything. It's just I call it an island of grass. I mean, it's like you're just in an island on the plains, you know?
Well, there was one stretch that had to be the most birds I've ever seen in my life. It looked, I don't know if they were starlings or whatever, but it was just, this entire field was just covered in birds, and every now and then a truck would honk the horn or something, and the sky would just like Alfred Hitchcock, and just like just covered. So my son called it bird Armageddon. You know, every time we're driving it, because he saw it. It's just Texas was a really interesting experience. You know, seeing it, and so it's reading this thing. The way you came from your history. I thought that was pretty cool. It's just because for anybody that's not been there, I mean, you've got everything. I mean, it's just in one part of the state you can have snow. The next part it's as hot as the surface of the sun.
Well, that's my experience, because here in Amarillo, we're in the Texas High Plains, and so it may be like snowing up here, and then my parents are out in shorts and a t-shirt or something down in Central Texas, and you might be, they're 9 hours away by car. And so it's the strangest thing. And the same, I remember years ago, there was a hurricane hitting Houston, and I was down in San Antonio, and my poor sister, she was like, "This is horrible. A tree fell through the house." And I was literally drinking a beer by the pool going, "Man, that sounds terrible." And we're in the same state, really, but I literally was drinking a beer by the pool going, "I really feel sorry for you, but I don't know." And she's like crying.
That's the Florida lifestyle right there. It's just one part of the state is getting absolutely hammered with a hurricane, and the rest of us are like, the lawn chair fell over. I'm like, yeah, we're okay.
That's what we love about Florida. We see our natural disasters coming a week in advance, so we can prepare for it.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, but the one, kind of steer it back to the book here before we get too sidetracked. Yeah. No, I like the way you also divided it up into parts too. That was it was done kind of in the acts. And like I said, as I was doing the questions, it's a brand new book. So I'm trying not to say pieces that are, spoilers, because I absolutely hate it when somebody tells you, "Oh yeah, and that was just terrible when Garrett Kohl dies," and you're like, "What? No!" And by the way, he doesn't die.
So you said.
I'll give you that spoiler.
There's a sequel coming. It
is a series.
It is a series. Stuff may happen to him, but he's not dead, because obviously, it would have to be a prequel.
Yeah, there you go.
That's so it was really well done with that. Just in the side. I don't know if you've thought about this or not, but in the kind of what I just said with the prequel, I almost feel like you could do a complete series on him in the operator side. In that one, I don't know if you've thought about doing that, because I would really enjoy that series too, because the way you set up the character, it sounds like he's got that history, especially with his superior that he's involved in. There was enough there where, you could easily, all like Jason Bourne type things. You could easily have a 3 or 4 book series just on the years prior to Taylor Moore's open range or downrange.
That's actually a great idea. No, that's a great idea. I've got a lot of buddies, probably not surprisingly, that are former Navy SEALs or former Rangers or Green Berets or whatever. I might have to partner up, because it just takes so long to write a book. But what if I went back to his Special Forces days, and when he was riding horses in the Hindu Kush and going on those missions, not to give anything away, but it's in chapter 2, they talk about he's got a history, right? And it's a pretty cool one, riding horseback with some of the guys, and I get more into that in book 2. But the prequels, some of those guys that have been there, done that, special operator type guys, that particularly ones that spent time in that region, that'd be pretty fun. That's a great idea. No, see, that's the second thing. You had a good question. Now you're giving me ideas. So I love it.
Yeah, the only thing I request out of that is an advanced copy, so I could read that one.
You got it, man. It's a deal.
Yeah, that was no. I think that would be just because I'm really, especially when somebody crafts such an amazing character, and that's the thing. It just on the surface, I wasn't sure I was going to like it as much as I did, and I really did. It just because The name I'm trying to pop in my head right now. It's Amazon original. It was based off Tom Clancy. It's
Without Remorse.
No, it's the oh come on, it's basically it's kind of like on the same line of like the Jason Bourne thing. He was the one, Harrison Ford's character.
Oh, Jack Ryan.
Jack Ryan.
Yeah.
So it was like that type thing where I feel like there's so many different things that even a TV series could be made about this character in
Right.
that form, to where this could be done because you crafted such a good character that there is so much that you want to know more about this person's backstory, like how they came about, that it just instantly it draws that interest
right.
into the backstory of somebody. And that's, I said, I know I say it, I feel like a broken record here, but it's just, very, very well done on the creation of this character.
Well, thank you. No, I appreciate that. And it's funny, as you're, again, the writer in me, as you're talking, I can't help but think, like, how cool would a series be that maybe goes to his sort of special forces experience, that, and how things are well done. You'll see these shows and they'll have a flashback to when he's growing up on the ranch and he's a kid riding horses or shooting his bow or doing whatever it is. Like, how much fun would that be to have that going on? That's pretty cool. I love this, man. This is great.
Oh, that's awesome.
More often. You're giving me great ideas.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I mean, you've had some people. I mean, Mark Greaney. I mean, on the cover.
Yeah.
Talking about it. I mean, here's somebody that's known for that book, Relentless. And just giving you praise. I mean, that's pretty cool when you have. I don't even like it when people say competitor, because there's not really. You can't really compete in a book because unless you both are writing the same exact thing and see who could write the story better. That's the only time I kind of like it to a lot of things in life. It's just where people get jealous and, like, well, that's my competition. You're like, you're not writing the same stuff. It's different things. I go, you only bring yourself up more when you get everybody interested, because why I don't have this one. I can only read Mark Greaney's stuff. I'm like, no, if he's saying, you need to check out Taylor Moore's latest, book, it's fantastic. Why not check it out? Because if I like your story and you're telling me I love this story, obviously there's got to be something to it.
That, and I'll tell you a little secret about the writers community is that's exactly how it is. People will bend over backwards to help you. And in theory, you're competitors, I guess, because you're both producing a product, and maybe somebody could walk into the store and buy this or this. But that's not. I mean, I can't speak for every genre, but at least in the thriller side, the military thriller side, I've had nothing but people bend over backwards to help me and are kind and have become friends. Like Greaney and these guys. I mean, I've met them before, but they're like heroes of mine as a writer trying to come up into this thing. And so it's funny to have him on the cover of my book, because he was who I was reading before, going, man, what if I could be like this guy, and then Don Bentley, I don't know if you ever have read any of his stuff. He just took over the Jack Ryan Jr. series and the Clancy series.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he did. And he wrote, he's got 2 in his own series, and he's a phenomenal writer. And he's one of my favorites now. And he's just, he's been nothing but helpful to me and a great mentor. And he's a great guy, but also a great writer. So you have these people sort of ahead of you in the business, and instead of sort of pushing you down and acting like, oh, you're a competitor, that's not how it is. Everybody helps each other out. And I don't know why. It's strange. No other place in the world is it like this, but in the writers community, I guess maybe there's kind of few of us. Maybe we just sort of gravitate together, but it's really cool.
Competitors is like, I don't know. It's like, I buy your product, I won't buy this product because I already have this product, But like you write one way, you could the same exact, way. Like what is it? Downrange, same exact type, same book and everything, but he'll write it differently. So there should be no competition. You can write the same exact genre, but it's everyone's mind. Even like Craig, if I read the book, I'll visualize something different than Craig will. So there shouldn't be any competition at all. No,
and my attitude is like, if somebody's doing it better, then I need to up my game, and if I am a competitor and somebody's writing better than I am, well, let's see what this guy's doing and why is he better? Well, how can I improve and how can I rise to that level? And that's my attitude. I think most of those guys are the same way. Nobody's again, at least that I've encountered, nobody's, sour grapes or anything. Everybody's, they're competitors, but not necessarily against you. They're competitors against themselves. They want to produce a good product, which in our case is writing in a book. But everybody's always trying to up their game, but not so they can beat you, so they can beat themselves. I mean, it's just kind of how it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was thinking as you were doing that, there was a question I just lost it. It was one of those I've been dying to ask you this one, and it's my head. I'm like, I can't. I'm like, I got busy and I forgot to write it down, and that was my mistake.
Thinking about it too. It's like we used to do MMA podcasts, and when it came to MMA podcast, everyone was so tight knit. They wouldn't help each other out. We just sharing people. We shifted away from that and doing what we're doing now, and it's like we're sharing left and right. We're going on each other's shows. It's incredible how much everybody's helping each other out. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Once people get into podcasts, it's kind of like, it's not like they're going to not listen to another. It's like, I like this. This is a fun way to get information. It's entertaining. I'm informed. So it's a good thing. Like, it only helps other people by producing a good product, right?
And I remembered what it was.
Oh,
it's a nice little tease. And
okay.
So for people it's kind of like an Easter egg hunt for the, you made a prediction in a certain book here called Downrange that has come true for the most part.
Finally, you're the first person. So that's three right there.
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah. No. So it's one of those things. I'm not going to give it away. It's a nice little Easter egg in there. So for people reading, that is your homework, is to buy this book, find this, and when you get it, it's like, bing, there it is.
I jokingly sort of toot my own horn and say, see what a brilliant intel guy I am. I predicted this, and here we are, and so yeah, we'll leave it to the readers to find out. Yep. So I'm joking. I'm not bright, but it was pretty good, right? You got to.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's pretty crazy when you start getting those, because you almost, it's at that moment, it's, I hate to bring this up because I don't want to, it's almost like the Snowden type thing where all of a sudden you're like, yeah, this is what's going to happen. And you're like, oh, whatever. And then all of a sudden, holy crap, that is true. Yeah. It's somewhere between this page and this page. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to tell you exactly where, but it's just, it's like, I got to read an experience. I'm not going to steal that experience from you. So you get to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of those things. And that kind of goes back to that original question, that some people have asked you, and it's the same way. How hard is it to try not to add something like, because I know you don't want to give away, tradecraft. Yeah. You don't want to do stuff like that, but you absolutely know, oh my God, this would be so perfect for this story to, this is what happens, but I know I can't. So is that one of the things where you sit down and, you've got the crumpled paper everywhere, just type thing, because you keep writing it over and over again, like how you can word it without giving something away?
How do I put it? Yeah, a little bit, because, you do have the insider information. So you just know it'd be cool, and people would appreciate it. And, and you kind of, you want to establish your bona fides a little bit as because you did this sort of line of work. You kind of want to put some things in there to show, like, see, I told you, I know this or whatever. Mm-hmm. So there is that temptation. So I before it even hits the screen or anything, I just kind of go, well, I can't. So that's just how it is. And like I said, I'm a patriot, man. I want to protect our country. I love our country. And I want to protect the men and women that are out there doing everything. So if there's ever even a hint, I'd rather just go do anything but this. If I ever thought I would put something out there that would jeopardize anyone or jeopardize our country. So for me, it's never a question of, will I do it? But yeah, there is sometimes you're like, oh, it'd be so cool to put this in, but it just is what it is. I took a note and I'm going to keep it. So,
because there's some of those people, like that, when they're writing, they have somebody on the inside. They have somebody that's feeding them information, because when the way they describe, whether it's technology, whether it's something that's coming up in the story, that they have somebody that has seen it and has experienced this stuff, because the way they describe it in the story, and then all of a sudden, a few years later on, it's like, oh yeah, check out this latest tech. Like, yeah, that was written in the book where you're talking about this fancy, the bullets that can fly around corners.
Yeah.
It just, you have this stuff that where in a novel you're like, wow, it's like James Bond. Like, no, they've got this tech. They're just, it just leaks out. And that's where I was wondering if it's just one of those, like, you've caught yourself as you're writing it, like, all of a sudden the backspace key, it's like, I can't put that.
Well, like I said, there's always a temptation, but for me, I think where you win readers over is with the heart and the characters and all that kind of stuff. So why it'd be cool to sort of like sprinkle a little bit of stuff in. I just try to focus on writing good characters, good story, people that you care about, and people that you're going to want to see through the series. And so I just try to focus on that and go, I can't do the other stuff, so just get it out of your head.
Yeah, and as I said, I'm in my head, I'm keep trying to think, it's like, what's going to be a spoiler or not. It's like, I want to, because I don't even want to bring up, I don't even want to bring up the reason why he's back in the States, because I feel like that ruins this whole, the first couple of chapters. I mean, that's why it's,
you can, I mean, what I've learned is, and I'm like you, I don't want to say anything, but everybody says like, well, lead us up to this point where, blah, blah, blah happens. I'm like, all right, well, here we go. and it's kind of in the press release, and it's kind of on the back of the book a little bit, but yeah, so feel free. But I kind of, what I usually do is like lead up to Texas or whatever, and go like, if the reader's got to figure it out from there. You got to join the adventure.
I'll put it this way: he ends up in a situation where he now has a companion that he must care for, but just the way, like you said in the thing with the horses, and you mentioned the character's name. And that's one of those aspects, like you said, for people that, for anybody that hasn't, you can go to Amazon. You can also go to TaylorMooreBooks.com. And this talks about it too, but definitely go pick this up, because one, the way you've crafted it, you've got the hardened CIA DEA agent, but now is almost put into this role of where he's got to be a caretaker, the protector. And this is something to where anybody that's watched movies, read stories, this is the position that these characters do not like to be in, because it's basically, it compromises you, because now you can't do what you need to do, because you have to care for something else. There's something, you have a weak spot now.
He makes, we talked about that split decision, and he makes a split decision that changes the course of his life, forever. And so, I mean, so that happens all within, chapter 1. So it doesn't give too much away, but yeah, it's that's what I wanted. I wanted there to be heart. I wanted people to care. And, we've all read those books too. They're kind of interesting, but you're like, I could, whether that, people live or die, I don't really care, but I wanted people to care. So I tried to write characters that resonated with people. And I tried to write, relevant situations that are relevant, to people's everyday lives. Cause it's not always relevant that, a terrorist is trying to kill you, or a cartel assassin is coming after you, but everybody has had family feuds, and everybody's run into an old high school crush, and everybody's had a sibling rivalry, and all that's in there. So, I wanted
you've got it all. Like I said, it's one of those, we talked about, you've got it set up to where, I think it's a fantastic idea, going to the behind, the prequels, but you've also got this one to where as you get to the end, you actually become, you've become so familiar with this character, the protagonist, by the end, that you are vested in, you're so vested in the story that this is one where it's, and I liken it to that cliffhanger.
Yeah.
In a show, because once that line I read, this is where, he's finally home type thing, boom, it just, the screen goes black, and you're like, wait, no, keep going. You're like, no, that's it. Sorry. Yeah. You gotta wait. You gotta wait for season 2.
There you go.
Yeah. And that's where I said you're going to have the Sicario 2 all of a sudden. sub, it just explodes. You're going to be right back into the mix, and so I'm really looking forward to it. So that's
good. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's so I'm sure your family's enjoying the fact that you basically have tied up almost all your free time now for this couple of months, between promotion and getting ready to write prequels that I just gave you in your head.
Yeah, there you go. And you just loaded more work on top. Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while seeing. Well, I finished book 2, and I'll tell you, I wrote for probably 7 months. I worked 7 days a week for 7 months straight, and I thought, whew, and then only to hit the couple of weeks before all the book launch, and I was working from 6 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night trying to do this. And since the book dropped yesterday, it never ends. It never ends. And I liken it to you remember the movie Bruce Almighty? Whenever he says, I got to organize this thing, and he's like, oh, I'll just put it on email or whatever. He does that, and he does all these things, and it goes like that. That's my life right now. As soon as I wipe everything off, it just fills right back up again. And I can't get caught up. And I'm a guy that likes to mark stuff off a list, and the list just keeps on growing. Every time I mark something off, 5 things pop up. But that's okay. That's part of it. It's just part of it.
And as we were describing that too, I was thinking just more time on your hands. That the name of the program is failing me right now. I apologize. We just talked about
Reading Rainbow.
The Kindle. It's the new Kindle program where it's basically the short stories.
Huh.
Where as an author you put out it's almost like you're putting out a chapter. Okay. And that's I'm trying to get the while we're talking here, I'll try to find the name of it. But yeah, Kindle is doing it, so authors sign up, and so a lot of them you're putting out short stories. And I was just thinking along that line too. It's like if you don't think you're gonna have time to do a full book series right off, this would be almost something where you just do short chapters, where
That's
missions,
true.
like a mission list.
That is true. That would be kind of fun. Yeah.
So I'll see if I can figure that the name of it real quick. But yeah, it's Kindle just started it. Kindle Vella. There, we got it.
Okay.
Vella.
That sounds familiar. Yeah, I haven't seen it, but that sounds familiar.
You can read a serialized story by your favorite authors. And so you just put it in there. And so you would be able to just do a series. So you could have, whatever you want to call it. You could have the Afghan file, the Afghanistan files. You could have you could have something to where it's some mission, and then you just do simple short stories, and people read those. And I think, if I remember, you sign up for it, or you can purchase those short stories.
Quit talking about that, because my publisher is going to hear that and go like, "That's a great idea," and that my list will just grow.
Yeah, I know. All right.
Craig? You can probably help me out. This is the first time I've ever seen it. You can get a Kindle audiobook, hardcover, paperback, and what's a mass market paperback? Why is it cheaper than a regular paperback? Do you know what that is?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I went to other authors.
Amazon's
page,
weird.
And he didn't have that, so I'm like, what is mass market paperback? It's cheaper.
Yep. It'll be one of those things where 6-7 years down the road, we'll have Taylor Moore back on, just follow up for book 7, and it'll be like, remember that Downrange? Yeah, you can buy a copy right now for $753. Because that's how Amazon. It's really weird. You get some of the out of print.
Hey, maybe I think I know what that mass market thing. You remember when we were kids and you'd go to the store and it would say cola, and it'd be like a white thing with the black lettering. Maybe there's no cover. It just says book.
That's what it says. It says cover to be revealed, but then it says mass market April 26, 2022.
Generic. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so that's.
The title is supposed to be released next year. So. All right.
Is this my book, or you're looking at
it? Let me look it up and show you real quick.
Yep, Downrange. Yep, a novel. Yeah, it's really
here. You can get a paperback, which is available, but if you go mass market, it's not available till next year. The title won't be released till next year. So I don't know.
The writer's always the last.
It's your book, so.
Yeah, it's
all I do is write the thing. That's it.
That's awesome. It's just, I was like, I don't understand.
I'm just a cog in the wheel.
Yeah, I think I was just looking through here, seeing if there was anything really that we really failed to hit on, other than just one, I really recommend everybody. We'll put a link to, go to your site, TaylorMooreBooks.com. Check that out. Also go to Amazon. Book. I'll be writing a review for you too.
Oh, thank you.
By the way,
I
because
appreciate that.
it's not just puff piece. It's like blowing smoke type thing. I mean, I really, really enjoyed this, just the read. I mean, it was one, when you're reading books too, there's ones where, people don't like to hear this, especially as an author. It was a chore to get through the chapters. There's those. Yeah. This one, I don't recall any chapter where it was one like, I kind of almost do it like the glazed over thing where you start skipping words because you just want to get done with it. Mm-hmm. I don't recall really any part where I was just like, I had to go back and reread it because I was just like, oh, okay, I skipped sentences. Yeah. And just for anybody that likes this thing, I mean, it's a really, really good blend, like I said, between the thriller, the Western. I mean, it has aspects in there that work and meld really well. And as you can get from your history, I mean, as we're talking with you and you mentioned, I mean, you can really see how you drew on your life's work and put it in this and crafted in the one. I mean, I think that as one of the questions I think I asked a little bit to it, it's just whether or not, even just from your time growing up in Texas, I mean, did that help you really craft location that you wanted the story? Or was that something that you kind of did a search around to see if there was something that would fit?
No, the location was simply because I moved up here, and we talk about Texas being like, the hurricanes going on here, somebody's at the pool here. When I moved up to Texas High Plains, it was a new world for me. It may have been Texas, but I grew up on a farm and ranch in Central Texas, and it was just a whole different experience. So when I moved up here, it was like stepping back into the Wild West. And literally, so you've been through here. I don't think some people have seen this, but I don't think everyone has experienced being able to see as far as the eye can see. I mean, you feel like you could see the curvature of the earth here. It's really strange. And if you get up on the Cap Rock where the book is set, it's like you're on this like plane, and the Cap is like it's almost like this big plateau. And then you can look over the Cap Rock, and you feel like you can see the curvature of the earth because you can just see so far because there's nothing to block
the highway just kind of seems to just kind of do this little.
It does. It's like a strange. I mean, I know it sounds odd, but it's almost that weird. Like that's what you feel like. You can literally see to the horizon as far as you can see, and it's so beautiful but so desolate. It's peaceful but kind of frightening because you're so just removed from everything. I mean, I would get on these dirt roads when I was, working oil and gas, and I would drive. I mean, I remember driving like, a couple hours and never encountering another human being, and you always would think, and then you had no cell phone service out there. And you're like, man, if something happens out here, I'm in trouble.
Nowhere.
Yeah, because nobody knows where you are. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's hard to believe because we live in a place where you can't throw a rock and like not hit another house or a car or something. Well, just imagine being hours upon hours upon hours away from, other people. And it's just a strange, it's a beautiful feeling. It's a peaceful feeling, but it's also a little bit scary in our modern society. And to not have your cell phone like anywhere close to working. And it's just weird. Yeah, it's weird, but it's beautiful. And it was a great place to set the book.
Yeah. I can't remember if it was you that brought up that stat or if it was one of the guys on that crew review about if you took everybody in the world, all the population, and dropped them in Texas, every single person would have 1,200 square feet of space.
Yeah. Somebody else brought that up, but it's fascinating, huh?
Yeah, it was one of those, and as we're talking about just the vastness of it, I mean, and it makes sense. And then you think about some of these ranches that are just thousands of square miles.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. Well, we're talking about Taylor Sheridan. He just bought the 4 Sixes ranch with, I think, some partners, and I think, and so it's the different divisions, the 4 Sixes, but part of it's up here north of Amarillo, and I think the small part of it is 100,000 acres or something like that. That's the small part, Yeah, so they got the little part over here, and I mean, what does that tell you? It's insanity, right?
Yeah, me and my wife were talking. Now, what is it? The part next to Oklahoma, is that what's technically considered the Panhandle?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, so it's kind of goes up, in
Yeah.
Florida, Oklahoma is a kind of a panhandle, but the Texas Panhandle goes up and it's sort
Into
of
that.
surrounded by Oklahoma. New Mexico's on the other side, and really you can drive for a few minutes up north of Perryton, which is in the book, and you're in Kansas. So you're really on the high plains, man. You're on the high plains up there. And so that's why I say, like, where I grew up, it was strange when I moved up here, because everybody where I grew up, it goes to Texas A&M, University of Texas, and then you come out here, maybe got some Texas Tech, but I'd go up to that part, and everybody would have, Kansas State or Oklahoma State or, all these weird college flags out. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're like, well, to go to Texas A&M, you'd have to drive, 10 hours, and, Kansas State might be 2 hours away. I mean, it's just a really strange deal.
Yeah, it's one of those, if anybody gets a chance, Austin's, we got to get him out of the state. He's never left the state. And so it's just that drive. I mean, it just between the thing is, Michael was talking about there, it took him 18 hours to get out of Texas. I mean, it is just this phenomenal trip. And I mean, we encountered everything from cold to wind to even a severe thunderstorm where a tornado, touched down. And it was just, you experience it all in Texas. And it's a whole different, it's really cool. It's just, it's
a
different.
neat state. It's a cool state, and it's a fun state. It's like Florida a little bit. Florida's got its own feel. Texas has its feel. So yeah, it's a fun one.
But hey, Taylor, man, I really appreciate you coming on.
Well, hey guys, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Again, I appreciate all the kind words about the book. Again, it's when you write these things, it's your baby. So blood, sweat, and tears go into it. So when people appreciate it, man, it just makes an author. It makes your whole world take care of those kind of things. So I appreciate it. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I want to real quick. I want to share the on the screen here so everybody could see it too, because I've been talking about it. Your website that's you just put live.
Yeah.
Yep. I commented on Facebook too, about we were going to be interviewing. So when you're in that post, so you just go here. I said it gives you, where to get to the book, order this one. I said, guys, I mean, I literally physically have the copy. I mean, I said, you got to read it. It's really, really well. And this is going to be one that's going to be going on the bookshelf behind me. So this.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yep, but let me get this off of here.
And get on there and get that review on. I went on earlier, and somebody had given me 2 stars. And they said there was too much violence. I know. That's awesome. And I said, well, I mean, you can see the guy with his AR-15, in the cover. Like, surely you knew there was going to be some violence. Right?
It's right there.
I mean, so you got to counter that bad review I got.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. I definitely will. I said it's not coerced in any way. I was planning on doing it too, but I'll just be like, I might even have to word it. Ignore the 2-star guy.
I just don't understand that. I mean, why hurt an author by your review? If you didn't like the book, it took more time to write a review versus just saying, okay, well, I didn't really like it. I'm not going to hurt his. I mean.
I know. I don't know. Well, I got one beat. I think Mark Graney had posted a while back. He said that someone gave, I don't know if it was him or gave someone a bad review because the book came out in 2020, and the complaint was that they mentioned nothing about COVID. Like, these books were written so far in advance, and so it's just like some people you can't help.
Yeah, it's kind of like the YouTube trolls. Just every now and then it just happens, and you're just like. Just quit watching the video if you don't like it. I don't know why you have to drop the lengthy review on why this was terrible. I'm like, all right. I'm like, well, hey, thanks for watching. Yeah. So everybody, please, I need to, before you go too, I want you to give a shout out to the people that helped you out with this too, because we'd be remiss not to mention everybody from HarperCollins and stuff too. So. Please take the floor and, thank them.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I always say writing a book, it's a team sport. Everybody, thinks of the solitary guy doing this. It is not the case. I mean, you might be doing the solitary work of putting this together, but I have a tremendous agent and John Talbot. David Heifel is my wonderful editor. Danielle Bartlett is the publicist that puts all these things together and gets the word out. There's so many wonderful people, and I have wonderful mentors. Too many to name: Jody Thomas, Linda Brode, 2 New York Times bestselling romance writers were my mentors, you know, and putting this together. So if you see any good romance, I mean, you got to think I was reared by some of the best. And but no, it's so much goes into this, and I thank William R. HarperCollins for taking a chance on me and giving me that opportunity.
Yeah, you know, it's well deserved too. I mean, once again, you know, it's like I really hope that we can drive, you know, definitely some sales to you, because I know I've got a couple people asking for the link in the, you know, so that we make sure they get the right book. So
yeah,
hopefully that's okay. But you know, give the best to your family. Thank you for taking the time, you know, away from them to be on here with us. We really appreciate that. And just once again, good luck, you know, best of luck, you know, congratulations on, you know, at least in my opinion, you know, very, very well done and successful book.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on, and I'll come back anytime if you'll have me.
Oh, absolutely. Look forward to it.
All right.
All right. Have a great night.
All right. You too. Bye.
All right, everybody. This episode was brought to you by Nanny Cakes, Nancy Burke on Nanny Cakes 407 on Facebook. Check her out there, or give her a phone call at 407-923-2898. And we go to redbubble.com. Aha, changed it up on you. See, merchandise right there. I'll showcase a little bit more on the next one too, but we had friends from Paramera. You know, they sent us some shirts, and so I'm wearing it right now. So that's, you know, Craig and Courtney, you know, thank you so much for the shirt. Appreciate it. We check us out on social media, like, subscribe, YouTube, you know, keep doing that for us, because we're trying to get to that magical rainbows and, you know, of 1,000 subscribers, because apparently the world changes at that moment. You can do things, but yeah, definitely go to Redbubble for our merchandise. We're rebroadcast every Thursday night at 10 p.m. courtesy of J&J Beard Company on Zeno Radio app. Download that and look up Patriot Radio, and you'll be able to watch our show. And Joey and Tanya Into the Outer Realms, they're on there as well. So this is one-stop shop. You'll be able to listen to all these cool shows. So go to jbeardco.com and thank them for putting us on there. Everybody, thank you for watching. Remember, TaylorMooreBooks.com, you know, Amazon, get this book. You're going to enjoy it. Everybody, thank you for watching. Good night.